Доброго дня.
Good afternoon. We are happy to welcome you in the Ukrainian Crisis Media Center. I'm Larissa Mudrak. I'm going to be moderator of our today's meeting. We are all in the midst of election campaign, and we decided to join. We have with us today Vice Prime Minister on European integration and Euro-Atlantic integration, and that's why this meeting is to some extent unique. We are all in the midst of election campaign, and we all expect for changes, but our objective is to preserve those reforms which had been started long ago. The single-minded platform was established in December last year, and our objective is to preserve irreversibility of those reforms that had started 5 years ago in order to prevent this reverse course. We want to ensure irrevocable changes, but irrevocable changes are possible only when we have continuous dialogue with those who try to move forward irrespectively of all the surrender. So I would like to present participants of all our discussion, those experts who are sitting to my left, and then we will start our discussion with you about values. So we have today with us co-founder of the platform, the single-minded, Ms. Ivanna Klimpush-Tsintsadze. We have Mr. Sergiy Vysotsky, People's Member of Parliament of Ukraine, co-founder of the single-minded platform. We have Sergiy Kvit, Chairman of the National Agency for the Quality Assurance of Higher Education, co-founder of the single-minded platform, Chaika, and Alina Romanev. I believe that we all here are united with one concern: how to preserve the key achievements, key successes, and how to involve all those people who have initiative, who have this strive for changes. We want to prevent the split into bites and pieces, the split of big idea into bites and pieces. Now I would like to invite all the speakers at this panel to discuss why it is important to preserve the Euro-Atlantic initiatives and to prepare this course for the further implementation by newly elected parliament. So, Mr. Svetoslav, the floor is yours. I would like to mention that the essence of those reforms which were launched during last 5 years, they were interesting and very topical. Probably the result was not sufficiently successful, but they were a movement in right direction. When we are thinking about the situation with reforms are always similar to our visit to a physician or to health practitioner. First, the situation with your health might become more painful, but then after some treatment, you would gradually recover. The same is true with the reforms. When you start implementing reform and start to remove the barriers which prevent you from achieving your goal, then sooner or later you would, through this painful changes, you would reach success. According to the rating of the attractiveness of living, our country is not among the best one. Many young people try to emigrate, and we now want to build up a country more attractive for retention of young people. Sergiy, how do you think, do we have any chances to continue with those processes which we started 5 years ago, and whether we will manage to preserve them, changes in the Euro-Atlantic integration? Before answering to your question, I would like to add a couple of words about our today's meeting. We can speak about the irreversibility of the course, but changes in any country start not with the powers, but not with the parliament. They start with the citizens of the country. Each citizen of the country should recognize her responsibility for the country, then delegate this responsibility to a party. In many countries, the parties are based on grassroots membership, and then civil society starts to grow up. In the United States, one federal state institution has like 3,000 with something civil society organizations, beginning with big lobbyist organizations and ending with village book clubs. Today we are here to present our position, irrespectively whether we are members of official politics. My opinion, whether Ukraine should be a member of the Euro-Atlantic unity does not alternate from because of the fact whether I'm a member of parliament or not. Each member of the country should be responsible for the country's development, irrespectively of the president. Whether this president is a magician or not. We want to go to the parliament to promote our Euro-Atlantic integration course. And when we start speaking about elections, here we cross the border of political propaganda and political campaigning. The society in general always has this chance for voting, and if the voters vote for those parties which are oriented to Euro-Atlantic integration, then we will have a continuation of this course. If people would vote differently, then we will get a government which will be interested in integration to Russia. So our today's role is to awake people and to ensure transformation of the people's minds. Now my question to Ivanna Klimpush-Tsintsadze. How important is your initiative today, taking into account the official position of people in power? I won't repeat the ideas of my colleagues. I would refer that during to the fact that during last 5 years we managed to cross the border between indifference and true interest to the destiny of our state. Many people joined advocacy campaigns, to joint work with state organizations, to joint work with MPs. It seems to me that today many people underestimate this, our achievement during 5 years, the openness and transparency of governmental and parliamentary bodies had become unprecedented. I recollect those old times when I worked for an NGO and we made attempts to meet with some MPs. Some MPs at that time played the role of gods, which could not be reached. So against that bad experience, today we observe that the parliament had reached unprecedented openness, and we want to preserve this openness for broad public. In December last year, we had a big gathering of people understanding the threats and challenges existent to Euro-Atlantic integration. Especially we kept in mind external challenges which immediately become internal challenges in this country. On the other hand, our idea was to protect the achievements which now start to produce some positive results. Of course, those decisions which we had to make, they are not very popular quite often. But in December, it became clear for us that the civil society has to mobilize itself. We all believe that mobilization of a civil society and interaction between different institutions via joint action will allow us to protect the best achievements from the previous 5 years, or to correct our mistakes from the previous 5 years, especially in the area of communication. So we have to take into account our mistakes, have to learn lessons from our previous experience and move forward towards the European direction. Do we have the roadmaps? I believe we have them. The association agreement, annual national programs under Ukraine NATO auspice. Actually, that is what we need, and we need to think how this should be implemented. Of course, those roadmaps, they do not take into account all the aspects of our life, and this gives us an opportunity to involve additional measures. My question to Sergiy, please speak briefly about the achievements in European integration. 1 minute, please. Dear colleagues, our project is designed with the aim to involve proactive and interested people into the projects which are of primarily importance for the development of our state. We plan to travel around Ukraine and try to enroll new activists, new experts, those people who are ready to promote changes. We are ready to build up a network and to maintain ties with proactive part of our society. I represent educational area of our group. Since 2005, we have made much in higher education. First of all, we had identified what should be changed, especially in higher education. And in times of Tabachnik, we had designed new laws about higher education, about university autonomy, about the secondary school, and now we are trying to change the vocational training to add new value to our colleges and vocational schools. So this proves that we definitely know what to do, because there is no other way out from this bad situation which we had in our educational area. And there is only one way forward, and I believe that we should preserve pro-European and pro-Western course of changes in education. We should strengthen the quality of our education to explain what we understand under the quality of education, and we plan to develop this, our project, jointly with cooperation with proactive people. I may add that I am involved into organizational, administrative issues, and from the moment when we launched the project, I have found out how many people all around Ukraine have ready and unfortunately, many people got disillusioned, and in case we manage to involve those people, to hear them, to allow them to implement their ideas, this would strengthen our country very much. And our regional tours are aimed at involvement of those proactive people. You can go to the website odnodomtsi.org and participate in our initiative, and from that website we will be able to assist you.
So what is the idea and what is the instrument in the hands of those who are single-minded to gather all people to understand what reforms are needed, what to implement? I would like to give the floor to Ivanna Klimpush-Tsintsadze to provide us with information about this drive of people's initiative in order to have it outside elections outside this wave of electoral campaigns and to have this major instrument. As I've said, this is not about party projects. We believe that we should think about generations, not political cycles. This is our priority. We all share this value of building Europe in Ukraine and to promote Ukraine to Europe, to NATO, despite all political stories. For us, this is an opportunity to see Ukraine as a ship where we have an engine, economy that is not ideal, institutions that are not ideal, navigator who changes, also team of the ship, and this team are active citizens who have the opportunity to join the processes, and also passengers of this ship who should benefit from what we do to get those results from the movement of Ukraine in their daily life. For us, it is important that this team of the ship, those active citizens who express themselves or are ready to express themselves, to join them by horizontal links. And this horizontal link, we understand that there are different initiatives. Some work on draft laws, others work on separate sectors and directions. We wanted to propose interactive model where we are able to prioritize several, as we believe, important areas for reforms. And all those who joined the platform, they have competences, they have understanding, and can moderate or perceive or to propose some things to get these people together and to transform our initiative further. We believe that movement to Europe and to NATO, this is a unified direction, and Ukraine have the opportunity and potential to implement itself. And this is about security and economy. And it is important that European integration is the way where a person should be in the center of attention. This people-centered approach provided us with instrument, and Marina will show you how it is done, how we propose it. We are ready to make corrections. This is live organism, live initiative that is able to respond. This is not a bureaucratic instrument. And also we believe that European and Euro-Atlantic integration is a common cause. This is not only the cause of the state institutions. I believe that state institutions, they let grounds in order that other people in different levels be able to join, and active citizens should join in order to promote this cause. For example, by traveling the regions of Ukraine, I saw big need in additional knowledge. And this is about European law practices and opportunities to contribute. And I see that this need will increase, and we should pay attention to this area and to respond to this need. There was a funny story In order not to be too serious, I went to one of the regions and I asked deputy head who deals with European integration here, and he said, you. So everybody at the local level should be responsible in order to move towards European integration. Someone is ready to take responsibility, others are not ready to take more responsibility. Someone is ready to initiate something but do not know where to go, and we are trying to create such a window where you can come with your initiative to knock at the door, and our initiatives may be considered as ideal, wonderful, but when they are being discussed by experts, we understand that they are not ideal and we should work on them more. So we have our tasks, our initiatives, our view. We should consider these issues and put them on public discussion to have public assessment of these ideas. So we have our values and we will continue to move forward. Now we are going to speak about the instrument that Single-Minded want to propose in order to contribute to people's lives. Education and other areas included, and also to put these ideas into guidelines for everyone, for people, for power, and without us, reforms won't move forward. 1 second. We do not want to cover everything. This is not real. We do not have such an ambition. It cannot exist a priori. And we will do it in the framework of our competences. We will search for cooperation with competent organizations, politicians from different political spectrum. There are some red lines. There are people with whom we are not ready to cooperate, but we believe that these are those forces who are not ready to move toward European integration, and of course you understand this a priori. So we would like to propose cooperation to everyone, to all. Marina, please. These are participants. We have a lot of them. Please, Marina. You see that this is interactive platform for open dialogue with the public concerning issues of European and Euro-Atlantic integration. Ivanna said it correctly. What we do, we have some initiatives, and the main, what we want to do, we want to wake up the public, people who have some initiatives, in order that they be able to present those initiatives, to work on them further. The aim of the project is like this. We have ambitious goal. The main, we want to form quality European approach for the work of Ukrainian power. We search for initiatives and proposals from proactive population. This is about all Ukraine. We are going to 15 regions of Ukraine, and we will gather initiatives there. And we will provide opportunity to people to promote those initiatives at all levels of power. Also, it is important that this philosophy be implemented, taking account proposals of the people. And we have the project that is called Your Initiative, and we will tell you more about it later. What is important about the project is that we chose 5 areas. These are called your life, your rules, your security, your cause, or your business, your future. And we included the reforms concerning European integration and NATO, and we have shown how these reforms work and what they can do in order that people understand that it concerns them. Because some people believe that Euro integration does not relate to people, but this is not the case. And we joke in our office that we want people to understand that this is about all people. Now we are going to say that we want to bring this information properly to people. We communicate directly with population. These are meetings with people, with the public, with journalists, and directly with proactive citizens and organizations, initiative individuals who have some ideas, some projects, some initiatives. And we may be useful for them to create networking for them to reach their, in order that they be able to reach their goals and to PR some projects in order that more people know about it, to have these horizontal links. We do it by 2 ways. First, we have the site, однодумцы.org. There you can put your initiative in 5 areas that were mentioned. This is simple. You may do it simply. After this, people can vote for your initiatives, and you may understand the feedback and what should be changed and in what area we may help, or other people and organizations or representatives of power, they may address to you and help you. Also, we cooperate directly. We want to cooperate with NGOs who share our European values. I believe that if we work together and if we are joined by other organizations, we do not have one political force. We are interested in different initiatives. We are ready to be a platform for promotion of these ideas and initiatives. This is our site. This is Add Initiative. You may look through our initiatives, and I'm really happy that some people who have interesting initiatives concerning military sector, education of our cadets in NATO institutions. This is great that you are interested. We are happy that you are here with us today, and we will be happy to help you. Also, we are present in the media, so we are waiting for you. Thank you, Marina. And in order to understand how to move forward, I would like to briefly speak about the main ideas. When we started the project Your Initiative, we are speaking about the reforms that are ongoing. We are working in the context of 5 areas concerning people, and there should be proper influence of reforms on people's lives. And we divided it into 10 reforms, and we found materials in open sources, and those organizations, they joined starting December. And what we want to do together.
In the format of those reforms which already been implemented, your life, medicine, urbanization and infrastructure, environment, your rights, your future, digital state and energy. European medicine should be oriented towards human beings, family physicians, etc. You know what is already done about family physicians, about free diagnostics, about money that follows a patient, about digital technologies in medical sphere. For us, it's impossible to understand how people perceive the reforms which already launched and what works and what does not work. Each person, each NGO may promote reforms at the personal level. Somebody criticizes reforms, somebody promotes reforms. The same is true about urbanization and infrastructure, comfort and secure environment for life, modern urbanistic and city building. Today we know that the city budgets are formed transparently. New social infrastructure is being created, but how this is perceived by people, what people may add positively. Safe European environment, about protection of environment, about minimization of impact of environment and waste management, environmental thinking, etc. How to unite all those positive changes that had started. Business and entrepreneurship. European rules of the game for businesses, fair competition, decreased dependence on the state, support of young businesses. Much was done. You won't read that list. A lot was done. You all know all those innovations, but we want to prevent this from stopping, from backlogs. We want to develop this further immediately after parliamentary elections. I would like to comment about human rights. The same is true about decentralization. Much was done, but you should do even more and correct former mistakes. This is true about local budgets, about transfer of landlords to local communities. Security and civilian sector reform should be continued. Reform of police service. We should strengthen provision of our Ukrainian army. Security could be extended up on the energy sector. We started to speak about education. And here also we have our vision how educational reform could be deepened and strengthened. And now digital state. Communication is extremely important at the state level. What could be improved in this area? We are ready to disseminate all that materials and work on further promotion of this initiative. Now I would like to come back to education. What do we have in education? What changes we have implemented and what should be done next? What initiatives we should support further? I would add a couple of words. When you want to implement reforms, you need money. Of course, each reform requires funding for the projects. But you cannot finance the projects which have old form or support old relations. You should finance changes. Today we start to implement our reform of Ukrainian school. We change the content of education, we change the level of salaries, we try to involve children more into educational process. And we are happy that government had found money for those reform. Would any reform of reform, especially educational reform, should go hand in hand with decentralization reform. Much money today are left at the level of local self-governments, and they should decide how to spend this money. Then higher education reform. All our universities have big autonomy rights. The next step is financial autonomy of our universities. Many things are related to the reform of our scientific area. It is rather painful. Here the movement continues, and we cannot have doubts about this direction. All that was developed in partnership with our Western partners. I believe that education is of primarily importance for Ukrainian citizens, and here we should have support of proactive people who want to remain in trend and participate in the reforms. Now my question to Sergiy. What is your priority among those 10 initiatives at the Однодумцы platform? I would like to refer to the reforms in general. All those reforms which were launched, they were launched to implement either the association agreement or in relation to the NATO membership action plan, or as a part of our obligations to international financial institutions. So actually all those issues are related more or less to implementation of European standards. To some extent, this is a big bulk of bureaucratic documents, regulatory documents. That is what Ivanna had been supporting for more than 3 years. European standards are the set of very clear, very strict European rules and norms which are transferred into Ukrainian legislation. And passing new laws in the government, we have to compare them with the European directives. For several last years, many self-minded people promoted passage of the law on the principles of national security and defense, which fully reflect the NATO priorities. Now my question, what are the top priority reforms that should be continued to prevent reversive course? When we speak about initiatives and reforms, we should look more carefully whether we are able to implement those laws which were harmonized to the Euro-Atlantic standards, whether we are able to implement these laws. We have to invent something new, how to apply those laws, how to implement those laws. The changes in this world, they happen quite often. So changes does not mean passage of the new law. The law is not enough. We need to implement it, and 60% of Ukrainian population live in the cities, and urban planning and infrastructure planning is extremely important. Some infrastructural decisions design the city for next 50 years, 100 years, or even for 200 years. So we have to think carefully about urban development. Many Ukrainian cities are the cities of Ukrainian past, not the future. We have to remaster our master plans of the cities, redesign them, and people should be involved into this process. You cannot just pass new law about master plan in Kiev. If we do not manage to start effective reforms, we would remain inefficient. Now we are shifting to a stage when material needs are more or less satisfied, and people are looking at opportunities for entertainment, and we have to create these good conditions for leisure, for entertainment in our country. Very soon in Ukraine, we will have different types of cities depending on the degree to which a mayor of the city is more or less advanced. The law itself won't be able to change the situation. About energy security. This autumn, again, the gas probably will raise in price. And we will look for improvements in our energy system when we will see high bills. When we have liberalized the fuel energy market, now we should go further and look at the energy consumption in our houses. All our neighbors modernized the consumption, not generation, not supply of energy, but the consumption of energy. Only thus we will be able to prevent energy poverty among our people. We have to modernize consumption, and you understood that I can speak about this for hours. So now we have 10 different topics of Euro-Atlantic integration in which we want to continue our reforms. Now I would like to encourage the audience to participate in our discussion, and what you can do, what initiatives you may offer for the sake of valuable changes. Good afternoon. I'm happy to present our initiative. Dmitro and me who have posted our initiative on your platform. The project is called My New Army. 3 times I had a chance to visit Israel, and I witnessed how Israel works with its young people. Israel continuously remains in the situation of war, and many young people there, they serve in army, and in army they are not just taught to offense or defense, but they are taught to recognize their self-identity. Unfortunately, one of the biggest problems of Ukraine is the problem with our self-identity. Coming back from Israel, I realized that we need to strengthen this self-identity aspect. This will give us the good patriotic platform for our army. Dmitro and me have developed this project, My New Army. The Ivan Bogun Military Lyceum had agreed to participate in this project. We will take military standards of NATO countries from the US, Canada, Europe. We will build up military camps and involve our cadets from the Ivan Bogun Lyceum into trainings in those camps. Thus, they will be able to speak English, to network with their colleagues from other countries. So we decided to give a chance to Ukrainian young people and allow them to compete with the Russian world. The main idea, it is important that those young people who will be taught military professions abroad, they should come back to Ukraine and provide training to Ukrainian guys and girls. Around $3 million are allocated for training every year by our partners, but not so many students are eager to participate in this training program. So we will train young people, we will send them to NATO countries, they will come back and change our new Ukrainian army. So your initiative is at the crossroad between education and security and defense. Thank you very much. We have one challenge. When young people with military education, they come to Ukraine, what they can do here in Ukraine when they come back. Many foreign partners, when they come back, they are demotivated because they cannot find a job. Our objective is rather ambitious. We want to change the educational system in Ukraine and to build up Ukrainian West Point Academy and to allow our Ukrainian officers to get the salary of European level of salaries. You might remember Ukrainian servicemen, Ukrainian cadets, they went to training abroad. I also would like to emphasize that all those things which we try to implement, they are based on Ukrainian identity.
Now we have another question. I have a question to you. So in the framework of this Israeli tradition that became daily, those people who didn't serve in the military, they cannot go to power, to high position in businesses. What do you think about it? We didn't think so far. Of course, in Israel, there is Judaism, and the educational system is based on this. We do not have this. We didn't go so far. Look, there can be professional military men, but for example, Crimea is occupied and high salary is proposed, and he just follows this high salary and don't think about Ukraine. But Ukraine should be here, and we would like to provide these people with these instruments. So we want to speak with our audience, and then we will go back to your initiative. So first the last row, then from the first row. Thank you. Gleb Vashlinsky, Center of Economic Strategy. I have a question to Ivan and Sergey. From time to time, because this question is from foreign policy area, I face situation while speaking with European partners and representatives of establishment of the European Union. And there is such a thing as personal diplomacy. We speak about prospects of Ukraine concerning membership in EU and the position in Ukrainian society of those people who work with foreign policy. So it starts with the Sherba position, and in Zerkalo Tizhny newspaper he said that we shouldn't say that Ukraine wants to become a member because there was been negative attitude and opposition. And also the position of our President Poroshenko, he declared in his campaign that he will do everything possible to make Ukraine the member of EU. And what position should be taken in communication with our European partners concerning this issue? Thank you, Gleb, for your question. I see that many opinion leaders try to find out when Ukraine joins NATO, and I would like to be cautious about this. I believe that we should first work seriously at home and actively push our agenda, our vision. Without this, no one will change their opinion about us, and this attitude is cautious. European Union made several waves of expansion and now is trying to cope with some problems in some countries that joined recently. And they try to find efficient leverage, how to deal with them, and also Brexit and tension around the issue of exit of Britain, how to pass through the stage and to preserve European unity, and also a lot of internal challenges in the European Union. We can't expect that they are waiting for us now, that they would welcome us and advise us to do so. So my experience of cooperation with European partners, including European bureaucracy, is that we have our vision, our agenda, our ideas. When we start to propose them, they look at us with mistrust and they say that this is not real at all. And in 1 year of work, what seemed to be unreal now seems to be real, because steps were made to move our agenda and do our homework. And this becomes our joint agenda with the European Union, and this was done concerning the energy bloc that is the part of the association agreement. Before they said that this is completely unreal, but there were several events, not at the political level, but there was expert work, the work of the ministries that was well coordinated. And now we have approved by the Verkhovna Rada this energy annex to the association agreement. And this was the procedure we underwent, and we didn't have such procedures before. So a year ago, we didn't know how to do it, even through formal procedures. And now we have a procedure. In accordance with this procedure, we may move other ideas forward. And now our colleagues from the European Union said that you did it because you always pressured us. And of course, we can just sit and wait. And we shouldn't just wait. We won't be able to reach anything. But if we do it together, the government, parliament, NGOs, experts, because about energy and annex, it was done jointly, we did it together. And if we cooperate, we will succeed. And my position is that we should actively propose, we should actively contribute, we should work hard, we should have proper vision and to propose it to our partners in the West. We should knock on the door in order to get answers from them. First, times change, policy changes, priority changes. We should be ready. Yes, we see that there are problems in Europe, populism. Yes, there is a problem, but some countries get rid of it, and this will be like a vaccine. And the political elite, those who understand that politics is the response to challenges despite all, they will return to power. We should remind to Europeans, those who want to exchange their values for Moscow sausages, but we should remind to them. And the best case scenario for many friends of Putin in the European Union who get financial support, whom he promotes in politics of the top level. We see it in Italy. And they just want to make Ukraine inactive, and they want to see this passive position that we would not be able to oppose Putin, and they just want to show that we did it ourselves, but we should get involved, and they won't be able to get rid of us. Of course, there are many hidden treasons and at the level of establishment, but they won't be able to betray their values openly, and our task is to be ready for this, and we should create a roadmap. We should have adopted draft law, and European Union is a vague issue, but when we are speaking about political elites in different countries, they should understand that Putin is a systemic enemy of the Western world and of them and Mr. Zeman and Czech Republic. Maybe Putin will do something against him as well, because for Putin they are just some sort of feed. And about formation of policy concerning Russia, they should have us as their allies. And if you want to oppose Russian plans against you, you should cooperate with Ukraine. So these are strategic initiatives, and for me, this is not only the issue of European Union, but also the issue of NATO and Euro-Atlantic integration. And we understand that clearly that they need us. We are one of the most capable armies. And what concerns me is that we do not have proper institutions, and Igor knows it for sure, that the reform of the government state service, this reform is ongoing. And it is not yet irreversible, and I believe that now there is joint responsibility of those people who understand what agenda should be, and the government now completes this roadmap of European and Euro-Atlantic integration. And I, together with the government office and with the coordination of European integration, we completed in order to provide it to those who will come, in order that they be able to get support from these institutions. For this, they need motivation from the civil society, and we are dependent on the will of some politicians who will do some work at some positions. And there should be proper policies that are adopted and by which we are guided. And the role of civil society and the separate initiatives of different citizens, this is really important in order to move and to knock at the door. We should influence those who will deal with these directions in the future. So we should remember the approach of the European countries about visa-free regime, the association agreement. There was a lot of opposition towards these ideas. But we have an interest to be there in NATO, in the EU, so we should do it despite someone doesn't want it. We should do it. This is our task, not their task. So the task of this platform is to continue this work and to knock on the door in order to move forward. Svetlana Khudka, Associated Professor of Kiev School of Economics and Stanford University visiting professor. So here in Ukraine, I work with the National Bank of Open Data and social issues. When we are speaking about Euro-Atlantic integration, the dynamics of attitude of population in several years, it is negative. So we have a rolling back concerning joining EU and also joining NATO. So this is the level of 2015, 2017 on average. If we look at the information policy of the state concerning integration with NATO, I looked through the site of the Information Policy Ministry, and there are no events that would spread information about NATO to population. And if referendum is held, South and East would vote against in the majority, and there would be 30 per 40 or 40 per 50, depending on the level of readiness to vote. So do you have a strategy of work with this for 5 years, taking into account that according to recent data, that people believe that Boyka should become the prime minister? So we have such data of research. Kiev Institute of Sociology survey. So this is the most recent data. Also, there is a wish of population with whom there is a sense to work. People are not well informed, and there is lack of information work. And there was exhibition about NATO that traveled to some cities, but we do not have a lot of work concerning this. So I'm asking about work with population in the regions in the next 5 years. And also, I was I was interested in the number of reforms concerning, for example, police reform. And when all the initiatives were gathered, what is the correlation between the pool of good initiatives, and we had many of them? It is enough to create a platform and people start to make proposals. And what about the mechanism of real institutional support and the legislative support of these initiatives? during the next 5 years. So this is really important, and this will identify the opportunity of work, because it is easy to understand the attitude of population concerning reforms. You may just look through the data that exists. The reputable institutions gather such data, but when we are speaking about the mechanism of institutional support, this is really important, because it is important for the initiatives. And I have a draft of European Consortium, and there is no proper support from the Ministry of Education and Science. This is a negotiation project, and they asked us to come after 2020 because we have elections. So we have good initiative, but there is a gap between institutional capacity and governance quality. So this is a classic story on how to support this mechanism during the next few years.
If you will provide us with the initiative how to continue this institutionalization, this will be good. But here we have 3 people who are now in the government and in the parliament. I believe that they are more qualified to answer this question than me. About communication strategy, first of all. I'm coming back to what I mentioned about imperfect level of the institutional development. Last year, 2018, for the first time, we managed to allocate money from the state budget to allocate money for communication and information about Euro-Atlantic integration. That process unfortunately, that was hampered by the State Committee on Communications, hampered the process, and only the campaign devoted to Euro integration was launched. This year, we started the information campaign earlier. We had launched that campaign with a more systemic approach, and currently State Committee on Radio and Television is under pressure of court proceedings. There is one big deficiency in Prozora system, which prevents, which is unable to prevent from dumping at certain quality of certains. Unfortunately, many companies that promise to do outsourcing at 1/3 of price, they win and are unable to deliver services. And that imperfect procedure in Prozora prevents us from good communication campaign. We have good strategy about European and Atlantic integration. I'm happy that European strategy was produced from the Internews document. and had become the state policy. I'm ready to continue pushing that opportunities. Thus, we have a specific vision about NATO and EU. What you mentioned, that many people support Mr. Boyko as Prime Minister. I believe that this could not be resolved via informational policy of state institutions. To this end, and Sergiy maybe will agree with me, that National Television and Radio Communications Council should become a true instrument for defense of national interests. Of course, sometimes this is characterized as the violation of the freedom of speech, but we wrongly underestimated this tool, and now the information field in this country is distorted. Unfortunately, pro-Russian information is prevailing in the country, which distorts perception in the mind of our people. We have to learn lessons from this situation and do our work. As for separate initiatives, of course, we won't manage to do everything within one night and implement all our goals. We first try to unite politicians from different political forces who share similar values. We want to involve civil society and governmental structures into implementation of good initiatives. Thus, those initiatives would be heard and get a chance to be implemented. We want to raise capacity to advocacy of certain things and involve political players into advocacy of good things. Thus, we want to cut down the distance between social initiatives and those politicians who may push up those initiatives. Responsible politicians never pay attention at the results of opinion polls. Democracy means elections. Democracy means the system of elections, the system of voting in thus we correct the policies of the state. Margaret Thatcher paid no attention at the policies as to the closure of mines. Please do not interrupt me. You asked me a question. I tried to respond to you. Political elites started to play in populism, and now we have crisis of democracy all around the world. Can you describe me now institutional capacity in the UK now? Or the institutional capacity of Mr. Trump? Classical political elites started to play in populism, and this resulted into the popular figures in power. those populistic political elites all around the world, they will bring the world into chaos. And then responsible politicians will come forward and start to implement necessary things and act contrary to the opinion polls. Because people want cheap gas, and so we should go to Russia and buy cheap gas. May I hear the answer to my question about institutional capacity? I have heard that you are not interested in public opinion, irrespectively of results of the Trump policies and irrespectively of Margaret Thatcher's policy. I would like to know your vision, the information policy which will reflect the existence of some specific opinion polls, or not opinion polls, but the public opinion which is reflected in voting. Those public opinion was formed by the TV channels of Mr. Firtash, Mr. Kolomoisky, Mr. Pinchuk, and Mr. Akhmetov. We have monopolized media space. If the People's Servant is the most popular TV sequel, then what you may expect, how this will influence the attitude of Ukrainians towards the EU and the IMF. We may blame either the Ministry of Information or the Ministry or the oligarchic. My question is to Ms. Ivanna, who offered to work together. I came back to Ukraine having rejected my contract in Stanford, and I'm happy that I can hear how the future will look like. It surprised me how you characterized the situation in the world. I did not speak about economic situation. Let us recollect that we have a dialogue, and we try. Thank you for your comment. We are forced to look for the opportunities for dialogue. Please understand the senses of other people. Svetoslav. We have 5 minutes left. Do you have any questions or any proposed initiatives? In any audience, we always have extremes, how to bring those extremes closer to each other. What Ms. Chaika had characterized, this is a situation of risks. We should pay attention at the difference in public opinions. We don't like today's public opinion, but we have to learn how to live with it. We try to do what we can to do. keeping in mind where we are and what we have in reality. Whether we have any instruments to change it with one finger. No. We are not dictators. We are ordinary people. We have a separate question here about dictatorship and democracy. Quite often we admire the economic miracles in Asia, not knowing how this was reached. Singapore was a very poor country with the highest level of theft, pocket theft in Asia, so they had established dictatorship to overcome that. What do we suggest? We suggest to take ideas and projects, to promote them, to popularize them. We can provide a brief example with our project of the university economy. We have good implemented project, the Kiev Mohila Academy without corruption. After 2005, we have created the consortium of university autonomy. When the Bachnik had arrived, we drafted the law despite of his resistance. We implemented many things as to the university autonomy, and this continues to the law implementation that still exists. And we want to change the economy of the higher education. This shows that if you have a good project, you should popularize it. You should make pressure on those people who will have leverage of influence, and you should go to power and promote your project via all possible means. We promote our platform as the way of action, as the way of existence, and probably we have offered the top priority issues. We feel we are experts in those 10 directions which we offer to your attention, your questions, your suggestions or recommendations, and our last 5 minutes. Leonid Khomyakov, systemic analyst, freelancer. I believe that any reform could be buried in Ukraine by our court and judiciary system. I have the idea about reform of our judiciary system. I believe that we should start a campaign and this year to enroll students into law faculties out from the anti-terrorist operations students. Thus, in several years, we will be able to revive. We will change those judges. First of all, we may organize a bridged course for judges, 1-year course, and then substitute all the judges. I have many other ideas. Our universities should be required to pass the first year of education at the in the companies. Thank you. You have a questionnaire where you may write down all your recommendations, and then we will submit them to the experts' review. Please do not forget about questionnaires, and Igor Kapakov from the Ukrainian Association of Quality. I suggest to use the management system as a measuring system for Ukrainian successes. Starting with the leadership of the state. For example, ISO 9001 allows to assess the quality of managerial services. This will raise the competitiveness of the country. You mentioned about environment and energy. There are also the standards, managerial standards in those areas. When it comes to the educational, such system also might be very useful. And Ministry of Education might support introduction of this ISO 9001 standard in Ukraine. The quality management system is a system which manages the quality of management in the entire educational institution. It's my suggestion to Ms. Sergiy. This will improve managerial education in university. Thank you very much. I would respond in 2 words. How do we see the quality of higher education and ability of the higher educational institution to ensure a quality educational process? Whether the university is able to ensure a quality educational process. All those standards, they focus on the process. Thank you. You are a single-minded person. I believe that quality management systems are important for us, but all those quality management systems are principles of certification. There is the things which require an assessor. The assessor comes and assesses whether you comply with the quality system or not. It does not involve any educational process. And curricula is not part of this assessment system. We don't have more time. The communication requires that you may contact us via website, etc. Thank you very much for your participation in this first meeting. Let us continue changes further. Thank you to the speakers. Thank you.